Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty.
We also have, this debacle of inflation going on as well. Certainly, some of this was to be expected when you have a COVID prescription where you literally throw money into the economy and shut down production. I can't think of a more, you know, toxic recipe for inflation. But now the big thing that Biden just won't seem to learn. He keeps thinking that the solution is more money, more money, more money is the way to solve inflation. And so they unfortunately. He just got a lifeline that Joe Manchin, and maybe we could get the image up for the show. So Joe Manchin has just joined him about a week or so ago. Or earlier this week, I think, on helping or committing to passing this Inflation Reduction Act. And so that's going to give him a little bit of the Build Back Better he was after, and essentially pump, some hundreds of billions more into the economy in order to just gosh, it's like aiming a fire hose of gasoline onto the problem, I guess. And this is, of course, they're saying, oh, it's no big deal. It's just going to be some corporate taxes. But that is actually just stuff that's going to raise prices, goods that are going to be passed on to individuals. Which just that's literally how you get some more inflation that way. But the other issue is too that they had claimed that there won't be any tax hikes below. That was one of Biden's promises on families earning less, I believe, than 400,000. And this bill is apparently going to put taxes on families that make less than 200,000. And when you talk about around the country, that may not seem that may seem like a lot in some places, but in places like California, I mean, that's becoming almost what you need to get by. The prices, I mean, the average price here of a home is around $900,000 now. So I mean, this is just insanity on stilts where this economy is going. But Inflation Reduction Act. Let's see if that's where this actually goes. In fact, they actually had a Penn Wharton budget model. They had said that I think in the long term, the inflation that they pegged from this will essentially have little impact one way or the other on it. But in the short term, they predict, much as we're talking about this may actually increase inflation a little bit, and it's just literally pumping some money into the economy when that's clearly not the remedy that we need. What do you guys think about this?
I think they ought to stop naming these acts the exact opposite of what they are. The Patriot Act, the Freedom Act, all these acts that they come up with are, the moniker they put on them is just exactly the opposite of what they are in reality. So maybe they ought to really call it the Inflation Increase Act, instead of sugarcoating it with such nonsense. What do you think, Leon?
Well, we know if we put more federal dollars, which has been printed by which would be printed anyway, more federal dollars into the economy, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be inflationary. There's no doubt about that. Okay, but Manchin, make this deal with Chuck Schumer, and of course they have a whole bunch of stuff for West Virginia, where Manchin is from, that is going to help West Virginia. But it's nothing about a bunch of pork barrel, a bunch of pork that they have in this bill, and a lot of it is going to spend on climate change and all this other nonsense. Like if the government could do something about the fact that the climate is changing. The climate has been changing since the beginning of time, and all of a sudden they think they could stop the change. I don't know why we're trying to do that. It is so ridiculous. It's beyond belief. But the point is though, and I think I know Tim, you're right. When the government say we are here and we are the government and we are here to help you, this is the time that they should run, okay? Because the thing that they name these bills, they do the exact opposite, okay? This is inflation reduction, just like Tim said, is really should be inflation increase because they put in federal printed dollars into the economy. and that is nothing but inflationary.
Yeah, I'd just like to clear some up, and I know Leon uses the term inflation the same way I do, and I just try to simplify it, and I define it exactly like Leon says, is that when the government inflates the monetary amount of money in the currency and credit in the system, that's inflationary. When Friedman said that inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, there's a second half of that quote that no one really talks about. He also compares it to if the output of productivity is increased at a lower amount than the inflation rate, then it's inflationary. So he kind of qualifies that. It is the true definition is when inflation is higher than the productivity. So in other words, productivity is usually increasing, usually, unless you shut the whole economy down, but it's usually increasing. And if the rate of increase in the monetary system is on a parallel path going up, then there's no rise in prices. So when Leon and I talk about inflation, I just want to clear this up with the audience that we are just talking about that inflationary aspect. We're not throwing in the productivity aspect of it. So, for example, if productivity increased faster than the way the government was printing money, then prices would fall. Actually, we'd see falling prices. Yes. If the productivity or the creation of money were flat, but productivity declined, then also prices would go up, right? Because there'd be less goods, so there'd be more money chasing less goods. So it would be higher prices in that situation too. So inflation doesn't always equal higher prices, and productivity doesn't always up or down doesn't always equal higher or lower prices. It just depends on the juxtaposition of the two. Okay,
exactly.
So I want to clear that up. However, to make it's simple in my mind, I do exactly what Leon says, and I call increase an inflationary. This is what it's doing. It's blowing up the amount of money in the system. That's what I define as inflation, and that's what I call inflationary. There we go. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, but your point is valid. You blow up the amount of money in the system, but that blown up amount of money is chasing for your goods and services in the economy, and thus creating the inflationary pressures. But yeah, I think I accept your explanation. Absolutely.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.